Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I'm very happy to welcome Gabrielle Pimstone here. She is a energy coach, and we're going to get to know her and what she's all about. And before we get started, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, thanks so much for having me, first of all, Carl, and it is really great to be here. I am, yes, you're right, I'm an energy coach, but I have a background in psychology. So I worked in the corporate world until quite recently, and it broke me. I woke up one morning with a really bad pit in my stomach and realized that something wasn't right. And I actually listened to a podcast, funnily enough, and it got me it really awoken me to the fact that I needed to make some really big shifts in my life. Dialed up my spiritual practice. I accredited as an energy healer and coach, and I left the corporate world. So that's my 54 years in a summary, in a nutshell.
So what do you do as an energy coach?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people come to me with repetitive patterns. So they might have challenges in relationships. They might have challenges making money. And these kinds of things have been going on for most of their lives. They might, have challenges speaking up or, maybe chronic procrastinators. These are the kinds of things that people come to me with. And every time that there's this ongoing repetitive pattern, it is most likely going to be an energy block that has formed through childhood and that has grown over the course of our lives as things happen to us. And so what I do is I bring my psychology background into the beginning of the conversation. I work with people to understand what's tripping them up. And then I use my energy techniques to actually release the root of their block swiftly and also permanently. So that's it in a nutshell.
So I noticed on your website you have a 15-minute a free experiential masterclass.
I do.
What is that all about?
So that is to help people to protect their energy. So if you think about what's happening in the world at the moment, also, anytime you open the news, go onto social media, you're hit with a lot of negativity. You don't even have to do that to be hit with negativity. You can go to the shops and you can, just experience and pick up people's energy all around us. So one of the most important skills that we need to know is how to protect and shield our energy from other people's negative influences. And the tool that I teach there is useful for people who might be going into a meeting, for example, that they don't want to attend, doing something that they don't want to go to, they may be in the presence of someone that's draining them. So that particular tool is designed to help people shield and protect themselves from outside influences. And I think it's a really useful tool and technique to know as we go about our everyday lives.
Now, would it be too forward to ask if maybe we could do an example of what you do on that?
Yeah. But it's going to involve some esoteric sacred geometry because the way that I work is and the reason why my energy healing techniques are actually deeper than, for example, Reiki, is that I use advanced sacred geometry. These are sacred patterns and structures that you see all through the universe in our human body, and they've got healing properties. So what I taught on that particular masterclass is a very, very simple sacred geometry structure, which is a pyramid structure. We all know what that is. And I teach people how to build it in their mind's eye and then how to go through a process of protecting themselves with it. If you want me to do it with you, I can do it. You want me to do it?
Okay. That would be exciting.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to just close your eyes, if you don't mind. If you're not comfortable with that, you can just kind of cast them gently somewhere and just get in touch with your breath for a moment. So take a couple of breaths in. And now I'm going to ask you to think about something that makes you slightly uncomfortable. I don't want to freak anyone out here. So just something that just slightly uncomfortable. Could be a person, could be something that you have to do, could be a place. Just get in touch with that thing. Okay. So now what you're going to do is, and this is all in the mind's eye, you're going to build a sacred geometry for a pyramid around you. So just imagine there is a pebble, small light pebble about a foot above your head. It's just hovering there, right? Now imagine there's a small pebble about a foot in front of you on the ground. So there's a pebble a foot above your head, there's a pebble on the ground a foot in front of you. Now imagine a small pebble also on the ground, but a foot behind you. Now a small pebble on the ground a foot to the left of you, and a small pebble on the ground to about a foot to the right of you. So you've got 4 pebbles on the ground, each a foot away from you, one in front, one behind, one to the left, one to the back, and you've got the pebble above your head. Now what you're going to do is you're going to, in your mind's eye, trace a line and connect the pebble that is on top of you, above your head, to the pebble that is to the left of you. Just trace that line gently. Now do the same, connecting the pebble on the top of your head to the pebble that is to the right of you on the floor. Do the same for the pebble on top of your head, connected to the pebble a foot in front of you. And now do that for the pebble behind you. So you've now connected the pebble above you to all the pebbles on the ground. Now what we're going to do is just connect the pebbles on the ground to each other quickly. So connect the pebble in front of you to the pebble on the left and to the pebble on the right. And connect the pebble behind you to the pebble on the left and the pebble on the right. So now what you'll notice is you're sitting inside a pyramid structure. Now what I'm going to ask you to do is go back and think about that thing that makes you slightly uncomfortable. And I want you to put it outside the structure. Just put it sitting on the other side of the pyramid. And it can't touch you, can't come in. You're surrounded, you're shielded, you're protected. And just feel into the space of feeling that peace, feeling disconnected from the trigger. Just sit in the space of being in the sacred geometry. If you want, you can breathe in the frequency of peace. Just imagine that it's seeping into your body. And this is something that you can do at any point in time. And come back to this and just experience the frequency whenever you like. So you can open your eyes, Carl. And that's just a really, really short and very rapid synopsis of what it's like to build a sacred geometry. Now, of course, I work with more advanced sacred geometries, but the pyramid is actually the basis of a lot of the geometry that I use. And it's a lovely way to protect yourself. I also teach people in the masterclass when to shield yourself. So, you know, sometimes just before you're going into a public space where there are a lot of people, sometimes I do it actually very often. I do it before bed because it sets up a really peaceful space when you're sleeping. So there are lots of applications for it.
Well, I started to meditate several years ago. And mind you, I used to take all these drugs for anxiety and PTSD and depression, the whole 9 yards, but the medication didn't work. And
Right.
So I met a lady who's actually a psychic, and she, I don't know, have you ever watched Ancient Aliens?
No.
Okay, well, if you ever catch that program, her name is Carolyn Corey, and she sometimes commentates on that show. But anyway, I had interviewed her, and I got to talking to her, and she talked to me about meditation. And so I decided to try it, and I weaned myself off all those pills and everything. And I found myself able to handle those stressful situations. Never had to take a pill again. Well, I messaged her and I told her, hey, I started meditating. I got off all my drugs and everything. She goes, oh, you didn't do all that, did you? I didn't want you. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It worked. It really worked. She's like,
Yeah, well, actually, it's true. Like I've been working with someone this year for about 4 months who is on a number of psychiatric medications, and after working with me, have been able to reduce their three of their medications quite substantially. So yeah, the stuff you can't see, it's not tangible, but it's really powerful. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't really alter and affect our lives in profound ways.
now I have to stress, because I don't want to get in trouble, but don't just go do something like that without talking to your doctor first. Because I tell you, when you come down off of some of those drugs, it feels awful.
Yeah, it is. And also, I'm actually a believer in an integrative approach. So if you need to be on medication, awesome. And then this doesn't mean the stuff can't help you in some way as well. So using a hybrid, like I've actually had a lot of people come to me for medical issues. Like, for example, somebody was going in to have gastric bypass surgery for the second time, and worked with me just to get her energy in the right place, her body clear and clean, to prepare her for the surgery. So that's a really lovely application of energy work as well. Somebody was about to go and have chemotherapy. So wanting to just get into the optimum state before they started that grueling process. So it can be used nicely in tandem with modern medicine as well.
So what exactly is this energy? Because I could see people thinking, well, isn't this just, the psyche? Or, I mean, what is this made of?
Yeah. Well, we've got two bodies. We've got a physical body that we can see, and then we've got an energetic body. And it's invisible, but it dominates, and it actually either acts as an accelerant or a handbrake in our lives. So what the energetic body is made up of, mostly people have heard of the chakra system. So they'll know that, like the energy systems, that's one component. Some people, it expands from there out to the aura. So most people know what an aura is, and there's a lot in between. And so what happens with energy blocks is that they actually form way back when. They typically form in our childhood. So you might have had, it could be a really traumatic experience, or even just a jibe in the playground at school. You get bullied. What happens when those events happen? And everything has an energetic footprint. Everything I'm saying has got a frequency. Everything I'm thinking has a frequency. So when these traumatic things happen to us, they leave an energetic. The energy doesn't just go away, because energy doesn't disappear. It's either it needs to be transmuted, right? But if it's not transmuted, it actually lodges in your energetic body and it forms a block. And over time, it compounds because more things happen to us. And so if we don't release these blocks, we get them, they get bigger and bigger. They actually start in our auric field, and then the deeper they go, they get trapped in our chakra system. And if they go really deep, they can even get trapped in our body. So they're invisible, but they act as an invisible handbrake. It's like trying to drive with your car in first gear. They are there, it's like you feel like you're a hamster on a treadmill, and we've all got them. So for your guest who's listening, think about, like, is there a repetitive pattern that you've had in your life that you can't break? And like for me, because I've got a background in psychology, I was in therapy for a long time. I sat and I spoke about it, and I knew my stuff. I knew my shit, excuse my French, but I knew it, but I couldn't move past it. And that's because the energetic block was still there. My issues were around, I lost my father when I was 9. So I spoke it to death. I knew everything about it. I thought I knew myself, but I couldn't release the anxiety. And when I found energy work, that's when I got rid of the trapped anxiety. And I now live without anxiety. It's been a real godsend. So that's kind of what it is. That's how they build, and it is invisible. It sits in your invisible energy body.
Well, I've had several events that have happened in my life that I think maybe that's why I'm not able to move forward. When I was a small child, I was molested. Um, when I got into high school, I was bullied pretty bad, and my brother took his own life. And those three things there, I think, are the what keeps popping up in my mind all the time. So how would I go about getting rid of that? I mean, does the pyramid thing going to help me, or do I need to do something else?
Probably need an energy healing. And then firstly, I want to say how sorry I am to hear that the trauma you've been through, there are multiple layers of it. So yeah, I feel your pain. And I want to say that I've literally 2 weeks ago worked with a 60-year-old man who came to me because he suddenly had memories. He was in therapy and he had memories of being molested as an 8-year-old boy. So 52 years had elapsed. And I worked with him. It was actually really incredible. We did one session. I was expecting this to go on for a while because he was so open. We did one session. He had a transcendent experience in the session. I did what I call a timeline healing, but back to, it was 8 years old, that inception point, find and release the root of the block. And, I did that. We did a debrief. He was feeling wonderful. I said to him, you're going to feel like rubbish afterwards because you're going to purge. That was the case. He had 4 days of feeling depressed, anxious, lethargic, and then it just released. I mean, I spoke to him, when was it? I think Friday last week. And he said to me, he has felt a lightness that he has not felt his whole life. And I'm saying this to you because of the story you've just told me. It's possible with anything. But I would recommend, though, I don't think a pyramid is going to help, because a pyramid is really just to protect you from stuff that's going on around you. When you've got a deeply rooted block, it's best to have it removed. It's best to actually get it released. Go into a session, maximum 2 sessions, and then just feel the energy release. It's very powerful. So that's what I would recommend to you.
You're able to do this through Zoom?
Everything's done through Zoom. So I actually live in Sydney, Australia. And this particular chap that I was working with lives in Johannesburg, South Africa, funnily enough. Yeah. And so we did it over Zoom. I do most of my stuff over Zoom. My Sydney clients, they like to come here, but I'll end up going into another room anyway to do it because I'm moving around and it's distracting. If you're lying there, you don't want to feel me kind of rubbing my hands and, you don't want to feel that. So what I've got a sacred geometry, an advanced one that allows me to house your energetic body in it, so that I can do remote healings. And that's how I do most of my work. In fact, 98% of my work is done that way.
How did you get into doing that anyway? I mean, you went from being a psychologist to energy work.
Yeah, from doing organizational psychology to energy work. I woke up one Sunday morning. It was the 9th of August, 2020, remember? And I went for a walk. I was very depressed. I wasn't sleeping. My hypothyroidism had gone through the roof again. And I had isolated myself from everyone I loved because I had no energy. And I took myself for a walk and I was listening to this podcast. And the woman was talking about living with crippling anxiety. She spoke about it being a mental prison. She couldn't enjoy the moment. She was always waiting for the other shoe to fall, and that was me. And it was quite incredible because I do remember the moment. I listened. There was when she said, always waiting for the shoe to fall. I felt such an intense release. It was like, that's my story. And from there, I dialed up my spiritual practice. I actually started doing some of Deepak Chopra's 21-day challenges, which are incredible. I recommend them. I followed Gabby Bernstein. I started kind of getting into it. And then I got an advert on Instagram for this chap who lives in America, come to a 2-day weekend workshop, which is always a marketing thing. So I thought, let me go. And I attended, and there was something so resonant in what he was saying And it was he who I signed up with. He's based in Colorado, and he taught me. I've finished 3 levels with him, which is the final level. He's taught me the most incredible. He's an energetic genius. And I then found out, I don't know if this is a good or bad thing to say, but he works with all of Hollywood. So he's got his clients are Demi Moore and Gwyneth Paltrow, all of those guys. And I don't know if that lends credibility or takes it away, but he certainly has a following, and he's he's so smart, incredibly smart and gifted energetically. So that's who I've learned with. Wow. And now I'm using and teaching his methods around the world, which is awesome. He wants us to do that.
There's some sort of certification for that, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's an intensive certification, level 3. And yeah, you go through, it's been the last 18 months, not more, I've been on this journey, and it's literally weekly lessons. I cannot tell you how many energy healings we had to do to accredit. It's seriously intense. It's not for the faint of heart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, what's been the worst case that you've had so far?
In terms of
person's trauma.
Yeah, I think the sexual abuse was very traumatic. I think, yeah, that was really big. There was another person who came to me for an issue, a presenting issue that was not traumatic at all, but I found the root in a traumatic incident at 4 years old. That was traumatic because we had to debrief. And I'm always caught between, like, how much do I share with my clients? But you just have to gauge in the moment, like, I'm always guided by whether I'm going to be helpful. Is it helpful to share this or isn't it? So I actually did share that. And so that was really traumatic. The presenting issue wasn't, but the root event was. Also childhood neglect. The issue was neglect, parental neglect. I find that very traumatic. Yeah, so quite a bit of it. And sometimes people just stuck in their career. I need to stop procrastinating. Procrastination is a big, so I'll help them with that. And, it goes from really traumatic to some minor tweaks in life.
Well, I can only imagine that it's got to be tough on you after a while. You deal with this, you have to go and maybe do a session yourself.
I'm trained, my training in psychology I've been working with individuals and groups for 27 years, and you see a serious amount of dysfunction in the corporate world, toxic. It's really toxic. And a lot of trauma comes out in the workplace, a lot of it. So I'm trained to empathize, but not let it become who I am. That has helped. But also, when you do energy work, you're pulling divine energy in. So actually, your energetic field is protected as you're doing the energy, because, I use sacred geometry on myself. I am protected. So it doesn't absorb it that much. Having said that, somebody did come to my house last week. I had a session here, and after they left, I took out the old smudge stick. How do you think? And I went around the house, and I just felt like dense energy. But most often, it's all good, and I'm to be of service. So it's all about being of service, and it's not about me. It's all about me, but it's nothing about me at the same time as I'm healing.
Well, are there people that get into this that are not so reputable? And how do you tell a good person or a bad person that does what you do?
Yeah, I'm sure there are people who have got into this that are not reputable. I have no doubt whatsoever. I think the litmus test is, people who overpromise. I think that's, a red flag. People that come to me, I'll heal you. You just be circumspect. I think the other thing is in the marketing, if people are trying to get you to make impulse buys, that is a red flag as well. But generally, we're mostly tuned on. You know whether someone's a bullshitter or not. You know whether someone's the real deal. But also, I mean, get testimonials. You know, a good, reputable person will have testimonials from people who will attest to what they've done. I would also say, if you're concerned, ask them about a time where things haven't worked, and if they share that with you, great. Like, for example, I've worked with a couple of people in my life where they've been so defended and so guarded that it's been so difficult to read their energy. And I've just said to them at the end of the session, don't know that this is going to work. So if someone is telling you, oh, they've got 100% success, that's a red flag. Just, sniff the bullshit. There's a lot of it out there. And when in doubt, I would say, listen to your gut. Always listen to your gut. Don't let someone work on your energy if you don't trust them.
Now, do you have a website that people can go to?
I do. It's generative-growth.com.au, but I'm actually now building up my my online presence because I haven't actually really done social media. So I'm getting into it now. They could follow me on Instagram, Gabrielle.Pimstone. And I'm actually really good with DMs. I've just started it and I'm getting quite a few DMs, and I respond within 24 hours, you'll get a response from me. So I've also got a lot of, nice bonuses to give out, so just, reach out, and I'm all about building relationships and seeing how I can help.
And you have the free 15-minute masterclass?
I do have the free 15-minute masterclass. It's actually 16 minutes, but I called it 15 minutes.
It sounds better.
I have that, and I've also got other resources. I've got a kind of an online program that is as cheap as chips. It's really, really cheap. So that's a 21-day program, 21 tools, and it's really designed for people who don't have a huge amount of money, but who want to get a taste. And it's very broad. You go through quite a bit of the full spectrum. And what I do teach is I teach how to clear your own energy, the basic techniques for clearing your chakras. You get that in my 21-day course.
Did you write a book?
No,
What?
I haven't written a book.
Okay, because I noticed something on your profile that said your story. I don't know, is that on your website?
No, my story is, I tell it on podcasts. So there's certain
Okay.
that want to hear my story, and the way that I tell the story, often for people who are trapped in they're facing into a transition, but they don't know how to take the first step. So I use it to help people navigate change and big life transitions, as I did in my career. Yeah. But that could be anything. That could be maybe leaving a marriage or whatever the change may be.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Gabrielle. Appreciate it.
So it was so lovely to chat with you, Kyle.
And also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Hit that subscribe button. From our regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network